The Republic of Senegal, also known as the Land of Teranga, is gearing up to become Africa's second fastest growing economy in 2024, with a projected expansion of 8.8%, up from 4.1% in 2023. Thanks to its prime location, Senegal is known as the gateway to Africa. They're becoming a hotspot for businesses and investors looking to make their mark in the region. Investments in agriculture, electricity production, IT, and transport are all contributing to its growth. Plus, with its stable political climate and government efforts to make the business scene more appealing, Senegal is like a hot stock ready to be swept up by everyone. In the early years of the 21st century, the government was able to successfully diversify the economy of Senegal, enhancing its economic growth prospects. Prior to Senegal's 1960 separation from France, the private sector controlled the majority of the country's economy, and the agricultural sector was very important. About 2/3 of the population that is economically active work in agriculture, which also serves as the foundation for industry. Although peanuts have historically been the most significant crop, agriculture has become more diverse starting in the 1980s. For nutrition, a large amount of land is planted. The peanut has historically been the main cash crop in the Senegalese economy, because the peanut trade was the main driver of economic growth. The big French corporations that sold the crop also controlled imports of manufactured products from Europe. Following its independence, the Senegalese government established a governmental organisation that is in charge of almost every facet of the peanut trade. Today, Senegal is among the top 10 countries that produce peanuts, just after Nigeria and Sudan. The state controlled the economy, even if the private sector continued to play a significant role. Additionally, the government developed an investment law that drew capital investment from a variety of sources and included a number of assurances as well as long-term tax breaks. The government of Senegal started to shift away from government involvement in the country's economy and to support the revival of private enterprises under President Abdou Diouf, who held the office from 1981 to 2000. A number of industries, public services such as telecommunications, textiles, electricity distribution, and peanut preparation, as well as the marketing of agricultural products, were targeted for privatization. We've been talking a lot about peanuts and its importance in the economy of Senegal. But the amazing thing is that the agricultural sector there is highly diversified. It's clear that the government has made an effort to diversify both subsistence farming and cash crops by encouraging non-agricultural sectors and branching out into commodities including cotton, garden produce, and sugarcane. Though its large-scale production is limited to the lower Casamance Basin in the lower Senegal River Valley below Richard Toll, rice is grown both in naturally wet places and with irrigation. Large amounts of sweet potatoes, beans, and corn are also farmed. Diversification doesn't stop here. Raising animals such as cattle, goats, sheep, horses, donkeys, camels, and pigs is encouraged by the climate and the savanna-type flora. This practice is prevalent in practically all geographic zones, but is particularly distinctive of the north. But keeping the livestock does not provide the farmer with a significant source of revenue. Only the hides and skins are shipped abroad and the meat is consumed domestically. Now, if agriculture and livestock aren't the leaders of exports, what could it be? Well, thanks to the years of industry development, fishing products currently account for the largest share of all exports in terms of value. The majority of the catch comes from the sea, even if rivers yield a large number of fish. There are many fish that are important to the economy in the waters around Senegal, especially those that are rather distant from the coast. Unlike most other African nations along the Atlantic coast, Senegal's waters are renowned for their wide diversity of fish. This is an extremely profitable source of income for Senegal, as they were able to export a value greater than $540 million in 2021. In addition to the agricultural and fishing sectors, the economy of Senegal is super rich in natural resources and minerals. The two main mineral deposits that are known to exist in Senegal are aluminium phosphates and lime phosphates. And now comes a crazy important mineral that we shouldn't ignore: gold. Gold reserves are found at Sabodala in the southeast of the nation. Seems like they've got it all. One more factor that makes their economy super diversified: the service sector. This sector contributes to the GDP by more than 50%. And here we should talk about tourism. Can you believe that Senegal is one of the most visited nations throughout West Africa, making it one of the main sources of foreign money for the nation? The government has made an effort to draw in more visitors, particularly Americans, even though the majority of them are Europeans. Senegal's national parks are well liked, as is Gorée Island. Also, Dakar is a significant global hub for conferences. By the start of the 21st century, the nation was hosting roughly 500,000 visitors annually, and tourism contributed to the GDP by more than $1.5 billion in 2021, and it is expected to go up to reach $3.3 billion in 2028. Transportation is also key when talking about the service sector. In fact, the country's transportation infrastructure has grown so much in recent years. Today, Senegal has a vast road network, of which around half is usable all year round. But you know what's more amazing? Dakar International Airport is one of the busiest ports in Western Africa, handling ships weighing up to 100,000 tons. Every year, the quays supply 1,000 fishing boats with chilled facilities. Last but not least, the telecommunications sector is another super important service sector for the economy of Senegal. It has a robust and dependable phone network, particularly in its cities. Phone service is offered by the national telecom provider, Sonatel, which is one of the very few private companies that offer internet and mobile phone services. Senegal's diverse economy has really made it stand out compared to its neighbours. But that's not just it. Senegal has something that most other countries are dying for. But before we go into it, if you like this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Senegal serves as the entryway to West Africa. It has long been regarded as one of the most stable in the area. With a lengthy coastline that stretches along the Atlantic Ocean, Senegal and bordering countries like Mali, Guinea, and the Gambia, they have an ideal location. Senegal is in the intersection of the Western Hemisphere, situated at the westernmost point of the African continent. Due to its geographic location, they have always been a significant centre of culture and commerce. This has been demonstrated historically by the struggle for dominance between many nations, including the French colonialists and the Wolof Empire. They were fighting over it. Due to its position near the westernmost tip of the African continent, the nation has also played a significant role in transatlantic and trans-Saharan exchanges, which has shaped its politics, economy, and culture. Senegal's location in regional and international issues, notably in West African geopolitics, is still influenced by its strategic position. This amazing location is contributing massively to the economic growth of Senegal. It's an open economy where foreign trade accounts for 80% of its GDP. We can't forget the big role that Dakar plays when it comes to regional integration. The port of Dakar is well served by major shipping lines, and it handles 9% of Senegal's entire international trade volume. For West African landlocked nations, its wide access canal and deep draft of 11 meters allow for 24/7 access, making it the perfect transshipment hub. They have also strong relations with other first world countries. Senegal has several trade agreements with the EU, the US, Switzerland, South Korea, Japan, and Australia. They are an enthusiastic participant of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, two regional integration initiatives. These agreements are intended to expand market access, foster greater regional trade, and provide Senegalese enterprises access to a wider range of customers. Through adherence to regional trade policies, the nation presents itself as an entry point into the wider West African market. It's worthy to mention that China has grown in importance as Senegal's partner due to its expanding influence over the African continent. The trade policies of the nation aim to lower the trade deficit, provide consistent supply to the domestic market, encourage local value chains, fortify the process of regional integration, facilitate access to foreign markets, and foster competitiveness. By expanding intra-community trade, removing obstacles to the free flow of people, products, and services, and expanding infrastructure, the government hopes to further strengthen regional integration under the terms of the emerging Senegal Plan. Seems like everything is going pretty well in Senegal, and luckily, their stable political environment helps manage this all. As a general rule, foreign investors in Africa must take into account the risk of disaster. But a number of powerful investors are placing bets that Senegal will challenge this rule of thumb. Senegal has emerged as a major destination for foreign investors throughout the last 10 years, in a part of the world where political unrest and coups are the usual. It is the only nation in the area without ever experiencing a coup. In fact, it has a stable political environment with peaceful transitions of power and democratic government. This consistency gives companies a strong base and gives investors trust. The government's initiatives to reduce red tape and draw in foreign direct investment demonstrate its dedication to fostering an environment that is conducive to business. Among African nations, Senegal is unique for having a protracted period of peace and stability. This peaceful and steady atmosphere has been essential in preserving a very hospitable economic climate. Senegal isn't just a champion in terms of political stability, but also it is a champion when it comes to fighting corruption. The government there has implemented several anti-corruption initiatives to fight corruption and enhance good governance. In addition, the country has a well-established legal framework that makes corruption a crime. The African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption and the UN are two international conventions that Senegal has ratified. Its Corruption Perception Index (CPI) ranking in 2018 was 67 out of 180 nations according to Transparency International. Thanks to this incredible political environment, Senegal's business climate is getting better and better, and it's becoming more and more attractive for foreign investors. The nation has implemented a number of reforms over the past few years to enhance the business environment, making it easier for entrepreneurs to operate and draw in more investors. Senegal is now among the top 5 most reforming nations in sub-Saharan Africa. Furthermore, the nation is currently among the top 10 most alluring locations on the continent for investors. Also, Senegal's stock of foreign direct investment increased from $4.9 billion in 2017 to $10.5 billion in 2021. China has surpassed France as Senegal's main source of foreign direct investment in recent times. Now that you know all the reasons that make Senegal one of the fastest economies in Africa, it's important to mention some challenges that are challenging the economic growth of this country. And here we talk about 4 main problems. Problem number 1, youth unemployment. Youth unemployment has increasingly become a threat to stability and growth in Senegal. Senegal had a population of over 16 million in 2019, with 40% of people under the age of 15, and every year around 300,000 young Senegalese people join the workforce. Now, the bad news is that only around 4% of jobs in Senegal are in the formal sector. Senegal continues to struggle with youth unemployment despite a decline in the rate from around 13% in 2010 to around 4% in 2022. This applies to those between the ages of 15 and 24. Graduates encounter a number of challenges when seeking for official employment, such as a lack of contacts and not meeting the requirements. Young people also don't know where to hunt for official employment. Employers further claim that because graduates lack work experience, the educational system doesn't adequately prepare them for the requirements of the job market. The issue is that even when young people do secure internships, they frequently do so unpaid. That's why they find it more challenging to support themselves while working. That's a big problem for Senegal. But you know, an even bigger problem is that a significant number of Senegalese youngsters go into the informal sector when they are unable to obtain jobs. Informal jobs are typically low paying and don't offer any kind of insurance or social security to their employees. The salary from many informal occupations falls short of Senegal's minimum wage. The issue with young unemployment is that it frequently generates criminal activity, poverty, and even international migration. Many Senegalese people have migrated to Europe by leaving their villages, but getting to Europe is not easy, and many people lose their lives trying to cross the Mediterranean. The Senegalese government, along with NGOs, has developed job placement assistance programs in response to the issue of youth unemployment. So, this issue of unemployment takes us to problem number 2. Crime and terrorism. There is a serious threat of terrorism in Senegal. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and other potent terrorist groups pose a specific threat to Senegal's larger Sahel region. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb is mostly located in Mali, where the countries share a border and the Sahara Desert. Boko Haram also has a history of recruiting jihadists from Senegalese citizens. The crime rate is likewise high in Senegal. This might include everything from armed banditry to pickpocketing. The Dakar area's Place de l'Indépendance is the epicenter of street crime. In recent years, there has been a rise in incidents of pickpocketing and violent attacks on foreign nationals. All things considered, it's a highly dangerous country. Thus, when travelling, you must take the advised security precautions. Unfortunately, the high crime rate isn't the only result of high unemployment, and this takes us to problem number 3. High poverty rates. Among the most stable nations in West Africa is Senegal, but the most poverty that exists there is only marginally covered up by this stability. Among its 15.4 million residents in 2016, almost half are considered impoverished, and the poverty ratio was around 74% in 2018. The same year's Human Development Index, HDI of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, Senegal came in at number 164 out of 189 nations. There are also geographical differences between Senegal's major metropolis, Dakar, and rural areas. Compared to 25% of people in Dakar, 66% of people living in rural areas are deemed poor. In addition, Dakar has a general poverty line that is about 2 times greater than rural areas. Talking about poverty, food insecurity must be the first thing that comes to your mind, and this is problem number 4. A number of issues such as poor hygiene and sanitation practices, incorrect childcare and feeding habits for infants, a lack of accessibility to drinking water and health services contribute to Senegal's concerning levels of food insecurity. During 2023, 1.3 million people experienced acute food insecurity. Unfortunately, poverty isn't the only reason behind this food insecurity issue. Well, food production has been negatively impacted by climate change due to an increase in heat waves, droughts, and flooding, especially in the north. This is in addition to other issues including deforestation in the south and inadequate land management. Concurrently, the cost of food and transportation services has increased due to a number of difficulties, including the conflict in Ukraine, subpar crops, and insecurity in surrounding areas. Thinking about poverty, we shouldn't ignore the issue of lack of efficient education. Every person in the world has the fundamental right to an education. Everyone should be able to receive education, regardless of their social or economic standing. Although it may seem apparent and common information, many Senegalese do not live this way. Senegal's government has demonstrated its commitment to developing a robust education system through its history of investing in education. By the time they finish elementary school, many Senegalese kids have acquired fundamental skills. Yet, 25% and 35% of them respectively do not read and calculate. In addition, large rural-urban gaps necessitate the development of an inclusive and equitable education system. Also, the education system suffers from a lack of inadequate facilities and equipment, a shortage of competent teachers, and poor instruction and evaluation techniques. To sum up, it's clear that over the last 10 years, Senegal has experienced significant political and economic growth. There are still a lot of obstacles to progress though, including inadequate infrastructure, a developing agricultural industry, and restricted access to healthcare and education. Still, a great deal more work needs to be done to provide children and future generations with a nurturing and safe environment. Not many kids get to experience childhood to the fullest. Future generations would suffer, and currently existing disparities will worsen if nothing is done. Live and fight another day, Senegal. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to receive more content. See you in the next video.